shit, yeah, they bread stank. Walk up in the club, dripping like I'm fresh paint. I could see through the facade like an...
What's going on, fight fans? It's another great day when you love MMA. Welcome back to Mad Matty Fight Talk. So UFC 280 just went down in Abu Dhabi at Fight Island. Man, what a freaking stacked fight card. That was probably the biggest fight card of the year up until this point. They had tons of good fights on there. But we all saw what happened, man. The main event, Islam Makhachev taking on Charles Oliveira. And Islam got the job done, won the belt, took it back to Dagestan, and continues Khabib and Khabib's father's legacy. So shout out to him. We'll get further into this as the video goes down. And then you had the co-main event where Aljamain Sterling defeated TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw looked like he got hurt in that fight. Aljo ended up getting the victory, so shout out to Aljo. Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley won the fight, and that to me, that was the most controversial fight of them all. So let's pump the brakes and start right there. So you had Sean O'Malley, number 11, taking on the number 1 contender, Petr Yan. Now, this fight was outstanding. It was a great fight. Very back and forth. Sean O'Malley lived up to the hype. I give this guy a lot of shit, but maybe it's because my expectations for him are really high. I don't know why I do that. Maybe it's just because I think he's more talk than he is fight. I feel like he picks on the lower end, but maybe he is the sharp shooter that he says he is. He landed some nasty shots against Petr Yan, but Petr Yan showed some great wrestling. Looked like he was controlling the fight. He had 6 takedowns, close to 6 minutes of ground control, and he landed some nasty shots as well. Now, I think one thing that Sean O'Malley did is he had a nice step-in knee where he split Yan open real bad, and Yan was pouring blood at that point, but Yan still managed to get like 2 or 3 more takedowns in the 3rd round. O'Malley ended up winning the fight by decision. Now, I don't understand how that happened. To me, I felt like Petr Yan definitely did enough to win. And I like what Aljamain Sterling said in his post-fight interview. He wasn't even involved in that fight, but he would like a criteria on what the hell the judges are actually looking for, because nobody knows what a 10-8 round is. Nobody knows what these guys are actually judging. I mean, there's rules and there's octagon control and all the stuff they tell you before they fight. But what are these judges actually looking for? There needs to be a clear criteria, because in my eyes, and going off of the already set rules of how these fights are judged, Petr Yan definitely won that fight. I feel like he got robbed. O'Malley fought his ass off. I'm not giving that guy any stress about it. It was a great fight. I really didn't think it was as close to give O'Malley the victory. I mean, if you look at O'Malley after the fight ended, he had his head down, looking like he had his tail between his legs, like he knew he was going to lose that fight. He got the victory and he was speechless. DC asked him, do you think you did enough? Did you know that you had the victory? And he's like, I didn't know. Like, he took forever to answer the question. He knew, he thought he was going to lose. Regardless, Sean O'Malley gets the victory. So congratulations to him, because you definitely proved yourself against a guy who is extremely high level, and a lot of people struggle with that dude. So it makes for some very interesting matchups in the bantamweight division. Now, if we move into the bantamweights, we had Aljamain Sterling taking on TJ Dillashank, one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. I don't think he's the greatest. I still think Dominic Cruz is one of the most dominant fighters ever in that division. But you have one of the OGs taking on the new funk era, the funk master himself. It was an interesting fight because Dillashaw's shoulder popped out immediately. You could tell there was something wrong from the very first takedown. It was within, 30 seconds, I believe. He got taken down. They had a few exchanges. Funk Master gets it to the ground. Dillashaw's grimacing in pain. You can see something was wrong and off, and then you find out it's a dislocated shoulder. Look, I feel like regardless of him dislocating his shoulder, Aljamain was going to beat the shit out of him anyway. He completely dominated the first round, and I know Dillashaw had a dislocated shoulder. Well, there's a few things here that bother me about that. One, how did he manage to end up fighting? I give Dillashaw credit, because as a former fighter, I don't think I would be able to do that. If I know my shoulder's popping in and out, I don't think I'll be able to. I wouldn't want to risk seriously injuring myself. So I give him credit, because that's some warrior shit. And to survive a round and a half against an extremely good grappler and striker in Aljamain Sterling. So that's impressive. You have that warrior spirit. That I give you credit. Now the credit aside, it was stupid. You should have pulled out of this fight. You had O'Malley and Yan in there that could have replaced you easily. Yeah, somebody would have been missing some money there. It's far away. I get it. I don't know what TJ Dillashaw's mindset was. Maybe he didn't want to miss out on the opportunity. Maybe he really thought that Aljo was so shitty that he was going to go in there and knock him out with a dislocated shoulder. I don't know what his thought process on this was. And this is the problem. I don't know how much PEDs this guy was on. I don't know if he was taking actual steroids, but it weakens your body when you come off of that stuff. You're not the same person. And Dillashaw, you know, he's looking like he's getting a lot more injuries as time goes on, and as they're seriously testing these people, you're not going to get away with the same shit you were on when the UFC was, you know, in beginning and they didn't have all this testing. So now with all this stuff going on, catching people doing steroids and shit like that, and the PEDs and all this stuff people try to sneak into their bodies, you know, your bodies can only take so much of when it's natural. You're gonna reach limits. You're gonna get hurt, and it cost him this fight. Aljo did a great job. He got full mount, dominated, landed nasty strikes. He did what Aljo does. I love that guy as champion. I really thought in the first fight, I didn't realize that he had a neck injury because he was fighting like absolute dog shit. But when they rematched, when Aljo fought Yan again, he showed me that this guy's for real. It's Aljo's back to old Aljo, and he's not fucking around. So with that guy being the champion, it sets up some interesting matchups because you still got to think. You got Cheeto Vera lurking. You got Sean O'Malley now proving himself. Petr Yan is still extremely dangerous. I don't think he gets any knock in my book for taking on a guy who is as hyped and a high caliber striker like that. So you still got those two guys. Then you got Corey Sandhagen, even Song Yadong. You got a whole bunch of guys who are really, really good in that division. Marab's in that division. It opens the door for a lot of people to have good title matches and to give Funkmaster a way to prove himself and be one of the most dominant champions in that division. Now, moving on to the lightweight championship, Islam Makhachev. Man, what a performance. I give this guy so much shit, and I'll eat my words to all my Russian fans out there, to all the people that tune in from Russia. Congratulations to you guys. Congratulations to Dagestan. Charles Oliveira is one of my favorite fighters, man. I hate how people underestimate this guy because his skill set is so high, and that's what makes this victory very, very impressive. My prediction for this fight is that Charles Oliveira was going to get a first-round knockout. I really strongly believed that Oliveira was going to stand in the pocket and fucking fold this dude in the first round. And I was dead wrong. It turns out that Makhachev has some hands, and heavy hands at that. He landed a solid strike, a few solid strikes in the first round. Now, I thought that Charles Oliveira was going to try and take a page out of John Jones's book here, because it looked like he jumped guard right away. He invited the ground game. I feel like he was trying to take a page out of Jones's book, because if you know John Jones and you follow his career, he likes to beat people at their own game plan. You like to wrestle, we're going to wrestle. You want to strike, we're going to strike. You want to fight in the clinch, we're going to fight in the clinch. So I feel like Charles Oliveira wanted to prove a point that he is the best jiu-jitsu artist / grappler in the UFC, in the division. Big mistake. You let Makhachev find out real quick, you know, what you're capable of. We saw how good he was and how dominant he was with his striking, with positioning, being able to hold Oliveira down and avoid getting submitted. He was not afraid. I respect Islam because he did exactly what he said he was going to do. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to break this guy down. I'm going to fold him. And when I drop him, I'm going to jump right on his ass and I'm going to finish him because everybody else is scared of his jiu-jitsu. He was right. He dropped him hard, and Makhachev must hit really hard. I didn't think he had the power like that. Maybe it's because I haven't watched all of his fights, and some of his fights I've seen him catch some cracks in. But he proved himself in this fight that he's an elite striker, definitely somebody to be feared on the ground, and he is now the world champion. So shout out to Khabib. Khabib has a freaking army of guys that are out there in Bellator, in the UFC, and in the PFL. Now, another teammate of theirs, Usman Nurmagomedov, is going to be fighting for the lightweight belt in Bellator, and he's probably going to end up being the champion as well. So they're about to have a few belts in that camp. Now, it brings an interesting question. Does Alexander Volkanovski from featherweight, deserve the next title shot for lightweight? Because you have Beneil Dariush on the same fight card who absolutely handled Mateusz Gamrot in a freaking great fight where he landed serious damage punching, outstanding scrambles on the ground. He's a very good wrestler, jiu-jitsu, grappler, whatever you want to call it. Very good at grappling. So he would actually be, in my eyes, the #1 contender right now. So they're going to give the next title shot to Alexander Volkanovski, though. So the UFC said this. It's going to be Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev, most likely going down in Australia. So with that being said, I think it's a very, very bad matchup for Alexander Volkanovski. Luckily for him, he's still the featherweight champion because after Islam dismantles him in a 55 fight, he's going to send him right back down to the lighter division. We'll break that fight down the closer it gets because, honestly, Alexander Volkanovski has a bunch of skills. He's a different fight. But it's going to be interesting with them at lightweight. Now, what's going to happen for the rest of these guys? Like Charles Oliveira, people said that they thought he was going to retire. I don't think he's going to retire. He's still young. He's still athletic. Now, I think Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira are probably going to end up fighting to see who the #1 contender is. That makes the most sense in that division. I mean, Charles already beat Dustin. He's already beat Gaethje. And to be completely honest, Islam would probably beat them as well. I don't see those guys beating him. One fighter that I would like to see him face is Michael Chandler. Now, Chandler's a good wrestler. I'm wondering if his takedown defense will be on point. So I would like to see either Michael Chandler or Charles or Beneil. One of those three guys should be the next one in line after Volkanovski, which is crazy. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm thinking for the lightweight. So congratulations to Islam Makhachev again. Now, Beneil Dariush, like I said, he fought Mateusz Gamrot. That was also a great fight. If you guys missed it, hopefully you guys can check out some highlights somewhere. I thought Gamrot was going to run right through Beneil because Beneil's coming off of an injury. Last fight was against Tony Ferguson, where he pretty much just out-grappled him. So I didn't know if he was going to be ready for this fight. And Gamrot's coming off of a war with Arman Sakarian. So I really thought Gamrot was going to get the job done. Beneil's the real deal, man. He's a great grappler. Very good at scrambling out of positions and preventing positions. And his striking is a lot better than I thought it was. He really landed some hard shots in that fight. So Beneil Dariush defeated Mateusz Gamrot. It was a really good fight. I enjoyed that one. Gamrot's a beast. Beneil's actually, he's a beast. Both of these guys are solid fighters. So I'm looking forward to see what happens for Beneil in the future. Another big fight that went down on UFC 280. You had Bilal Muhammad taking on the undefeated Sean Brady, 15-0. This fight was really exciting because both of these guys were standing and banging. Bilal and Brady, their grappling was good, but they just couldn't get each other to the ground. Next thing you know, they're standing and trading. Sean Brady looked really fast in that fight. He has outstanding counters, but he wasn't throwing more than one at a time. He's kind of just countering one, countering another, and he was cracking Bilal Muhammad hard. But eventually, I think late in the second round, Bilal Muhammad nailed Brady, backed him up against the cage, and just unloaded flurries, eventually striking his way to a victory. And the undefeated Sean Brady is now not undefeated. He's got one loss on his record, and you're going to remember the name because it's from Bilal Muhammad. So shout out to Bilal Muhammad, who trained with Khabib's team for this fight. I believe he's probably split some time between who he trains with and Khabib's team. Bilal's another one of those guys, man. He's going to be a dark horse. He's gonna be a top contender, and he's definitely somebody who should be feared. Overall, UFC 280 was a great fight card. A lot of history being made on that fight card. Looking forward to see what happens with these bantamweights and what's going to happen with the contenders in the lightweight. Like always, guys, thanks for watching my video. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I drop more content. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Haters talking shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an